Story 1. The woman on exit 19. It was 2 in the morning when Marcus realized his phone had died. He'd been driving from Nashville back to his small Kentucky town after a weekend gig. Miles of black highway unfolding ahead. Rain had started to blur the glow of the highway signs. The interstate felt like a long, silver ribbon laid through the darkness. Marcus eased off the accelerator, thinking about stopping at the next rest area to charge up, when he saw her. She was standing under the orange halo of exit 9, soaked, thumb out, a white dress clinging to her like a memory. The sort of person you mistake for a hallucination until the car in front of you slows and everyone else stares. Marcus swore he wouldn't pick up hitchhikers, but something about how alone she looked, how tired, made him pull over to the shoulder. "Are you okay?" he called, rolling down the window despite the rain. She didn't answer at first. Then she climbed in with the kind of quiet that felt practiced. She smelled faintly of wet pavement and something older, like the inside of an old church. She told him, in a voice that never rose, that her car had broken down 3 exits back. She'd been trying to flag someone down for nearly an hour. Marcus handed her a blanket from the trunk and felt uneasy. Whence didn't he seem to want it? They drove for 10 minutes in silence. She was staring out the side window, not at the passing lights but past them, like she could see a road behind them that no one else could. She gave Marcus an address to drop her at a small house on a side street that required a right off the interstate. When they came to the exit, he followed her directions, heart thudding in a way that had nothing to do with the rain. The house looked abandoned, paint peeled like old scabs, porch sagging. He pulled to the curb. She thanked him with the same flat voice, and then before he could say anything walked up the porch steps and through a locked-looking door. Marcus sat there for a moment, then realized he'd left his wallet on the passenger seat. He reached for it and, reflexively, looked back up. No footprints led to the porch. The front door was closed, but the chain was on. A faded nameplate by the door read, "In memory of Martha Ellis, 1987 to 2010. He looked at the date and then at his hands. The passenger seat was empty. The blanket was gone. His phone buzzed. A text from his manager asking where he was. He typed something nonsensical and drove away. The rain washing the taillights of exit 19 into a smear. Weeks later, at a gas station, he asked the clerk about the house on that side street. The clerk looked at him in a way that said, "Some maps are better left unasked about," and said, "Nobody's lived there since the collapse in 2010. Poor girl, hit by a drunk on the interstate. Been a local story for years. Marcus never drove that route alone again after that night. Story 2. The truck that followed Cassie had been driving an old Chevy across the plains of I-80 in Nebraska. Headphones in the radio turned low. It was a cross-country move. A mattress in the back, a backpack on the seat. Around 3 a.m., the sky was so dark it felt like the road had been cut out of black felt. A semi-truck pulled up beside him, lights bright as a second moon. The truck stayed parallel for a long stretch, its driver hidden behind tinted glass. Sometimes over long hauls, trucks pair of a silent highway camaraderie. Casey waved. The truck flashed its high beams twice, an old trucker sign for "We're with you." Then it fell in behind him and stayed tailing him at the same speed Casey sped up. The truck matched him. It's low. The truck slowed too, until his dashboard glowed red with speedometer panic. He tried to lose it by changing lanes, but the semi always appeared a lane over, like the road had been folded and the truck was already waiting in the crease. He took the next exit along empty off-ramp, leading to a diner with a neon cup of coffee flickering on the sign. He breathed out in the parking lot, swearing under his breath, convinced the truck would keep going. Instead, from the dark highway, headlights rolled down the ramp, straight into the diner's lot, and pulled in 2 spaces away. Casey walked inside first. The diner felt like it belonged to another decade. Vinyl booths and a jukebox that hummed a tune with static. The trucker sat at the counter, face shadowed beneath his cap. He didn't look up until Casey stood across from him, breath fogging the air. "You been following me?" Casey asked it. It came out harsher than he expected. The trucker smiled without moving his mouth. "Road's busy at night," he said. "I aim to help." Casey told the waitress to call the police. She shrugged, wiping a plate, like this was a normal night. When Casey told the cop what happened, The officer frowned and asked if he could describe the truck. Cassie did old make. A dented, chrome bumper. A faded company logo. The officer's face went flat. There hasn't been a truck registered to that company for years, he said. They had one driver who died in a wreck on I-80 back in '98. Hit a car. Never left the shoulder. Casey left the diner with the cop's number in his pocket and the smell of frying grease in his nose. He glanced at the highway before he pulled back on, and the semi was gone. No tire marks, no dented bumper, nothing but the empty hum of the interstate. Some things follow you for reasons you can't explain. Sometimes the road remembers more than people do. Story 3. Static at mile marker 7-2. Dana was a morning person who liked the quiet early rides before the sun. She was driving an old sedan home from a night shift. Radio set to a late-night talk show. At mile marker 72, the radio cut to static. Not the gentle hiss when you lose signal, but a layered, whispering static that felt like someone breathing through a speaker. She fiddled with the dial. The static came and went, like someone tapping Morse code against the glass. Then, clear as a voice in an empty car, a man's voice filtered through. I told a story calmly, intimately, about a collision at mile marker 72 years ago, about 2 cars and 1 fatal error. He named streets, a weather pattern, and a license plate number printed from a memory no one else should have. Dana felt the hair along her arms lift. Cold and adrenaline-fueled, she pulled over to the shoulder. The voice continued, as if narrating a memory for an audience of one, describing the screech of tires and a woman's laugh that turned into something else. Dana's hands shook on the wheel. For a second, she thought about honking the horn, about yelling back. Instead, she dialed the radio's preset and turned it off, fingers numb. The next morning, over coffee, she mentioned it to a coworker, expecting a laugh. Her coworker went very quiet, then told her, Millie Marker, 72, that's the one with the old marker stone by the guardrail. Folks say a wreck killed a young couple there in the late 80s. Every few years, the radio picks up stuff. Folks, leaf flowers. Dana drove by during daylight the next week. There, under a rusted mile marker, someone had tucked a weathered photograph into the guardrail bolts, black and white, and sun-bleached. She walked away feeling like someone had read a line of her life aloud the night before and then shut the book. Story 4. The rear view. Passenger Ethan was coming back from his cousin's bachelor party on the interstate when his car started to smell faintly of smoke. He pulled off to the next exit, shoulder lights, and the distant hum of a truck stop. He popped the hood, then, worried the engine might have overheated, called his dad for advice. His dad told him to sit tight in the car, keep the doors locked, and wait for a tow. Ethan turned the key off and flicked the hazard lights on, then leaned back against the seat and closed his eyes for a moment. That's when he felt it, the sensation of someone breathing softly behind him. He opened his eyes. The rear seat was empty. He laughed at himself. 2 a.m. with adrenaline and cheap beer buzzing his veins. Then he glanced at the rearview mirror, and for the briefest sliver of time, a face looked back at him from the back seat. A young woman watching him, expression empty, eyes like dark coins. She was not there when he turned to check. Ethan's laugh died. He grabbed his phone, furious at himself, and dialed his dad again. I'm pulling out, he said. I'll go slow. On the road again. Headlights smeared past. The smell of smoke gone. He glanced periodically in the rear view. Every time he did, there was nothing. On his final stretch, before home, his headlights picked up a figure on the shoulder, a woman in a pale dress walking toward the overpass. Panic lodged in his chest. He slowed down and then realized she was just walking, no waving, no asking for a ride. When he passed, she looked straight at him, her lip curled into a smile he felt rather than saw, tiny and certain. Like a secret, Ethan called his cousin the next day. Tired and jittery, his cousin said, Remember that old girl who used to hitch rides on this stretch? They used to tell kids she'd get in your car, ride with you for a while, and then be gone at the next exit. Folks say she's been doing it since the 70s, after that bridge collapse. Ethan sold his car a month later. He couldn't get the face in the rear view out of his head. The way it seemed to be remembering him as much as he remembered it.